Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head to Denmark once again, and we're going to revisit one of the famous Danish gypsy brewers, and you've seen me review a good number of beers from these guys. So for this one we are going back to Copenhagen and we're having a taste of another beer from Mikkeller. So this one is the Funky Star. This beer I think was produced somewhere around 2013-2014. I've had this one for about 5 years and they're describing this one as a funky Belgian ale. It comes in at 9.39%, so very specific I know, but this beer, as I say, this is one that I'm sure I would have bought back in about 2014. It's been sitting in my aging box along with my Imperial Stouts for a good little while, and it's actually 6 months out of date. It went out of date on the 29th of March 2019, and the day that I'm filming this one for you is the 4th of September 2019. But I had the same with the Monk's Brew and I tried that and it was really quite nice, so hopefully this one is still in pretty good condition, and when they're recommending that it can be aged for 5 years, I'm sure that another couple of months isn't going to make too much difference to that. So hopefully it's a good beer, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. This is one of the beers that they brewed when they were still kind of a properly gypsy brewery, if you like, and this one was brewed at the Proefbrouwerij in Lochristenhoofd, just outside of Ghent in Belgium. But yeah, looking forward to it, and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Mikkeller before. No doubt there will be some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Mikkeller then, on to my brewery notes. So as I mentioned earlier, Mikkeller are the famous Danish gypsy brewery, and they were founded by Christian Keller and Mikkel Bjergso, although the company is now run exclusively by Bjergso, who used to be a teacher. But again, these guys are very influenced by the American craft beer movement, and they basically started out as the home brewing experimentations of Christian and Mikkel and grew from there. Christian left the company very early on because he wanted to have a kind of core range of beers, whereas Mikkel basically wanted to, do the whole experimental approach, which is what has made Mikkeller famous. But Christian now works for Soundhouse magazine, if I remember the name correctly, one of the big music magazines in Copenhagen. But for a long time these guys didn't have their own brewery, but rather brewed at a variety of host breweries, also known as gypsy brewing. They were brewing beer in America, in Norway and Scotland, but most of their beer was produced in Belgium at the Proefbrouwerij in Lochristenhoofd, just out to the east of Ghent in Belgium, and their home base of course was the Mikkeller bar on Victoriagade in Copenhagen. In the early days they also had a collaboration bar with To Øl as well, whose founders are former students of Mikkeller's. But in April of 2016 they took over AleSmith's former brewery in San Diego in California after they had moved on to a larger space, and then the following year in 2017 they announced that they would establish a second brewery in Citi Field, which is home to the New York Mets, and I believe they have expanded that New York facility a little bit as well, because we're starting to get beers in Copenhagen both from Mikkeller Brewing New York and from Mikkeller San Diego as well. And they also now have the facility in Copenhagen which is called Baghaven. This is where they experiment with sour beers. They've got 12 fodders there that range from 3,000 litres to 7,000 litres. They've got a whole load of barrels and things like that as well. The beers there are brewed at Warpigs, which is their collaboration brew pub that they have with Three Floyds from Munster in Indiana in America. Definitely a place you want to go. They've got various bars throughout the city now. There's also the Ramen Tobiru. There's 2 of those. Very authentic ramen there, incidentally, because the chefs are Japanese. They've got Ulen Brood, which is basically bread and beer. There's a whole host of bars in Copenhagen that belong to Mikkeller that you can check. They've also got their general store, which does all the hot sauces. They're distilling spirits like gins. I don't know if they've got whiskies, but they're doing a lot of different spirits there, and if you go to the Mikkeller general store you can pick up all the sauces and stuff like that they're producing as well. I think they also are doing craft sodas, or I can't remember, maybe those are under the War Pigs name, but they're basically started out with brewing the craft beers. They've expanded into spirits, and they're doing a lot of food and things to go with that now as well. They've got various bars around the world, including the list I have here is Barcelona, Berlin, Warsaw, Bucharest, Stockholm, Reykjavik, Tórshavn in the Faroe Islands, Tokyo, Seoul, Taipei, Singapore, and like I mentioned to you, they've got various locations in Copenhagen. There's a good few different locations in San Diego as well, and also a couple of different places in Bangkok in Thailand as well. So lots of places you can go to try the Mikkeller beers, and probably these guys are the most recognisable craft beer name from Denmark that you're going to come across these days. But as I've told you before, Copenhagen, in my opinion, is the best craft beer city in Europe, if not the world. It's actually very, very good, although Chicago might rival that actually after my experiences there. But Copenhagen, I think, is a very, very good craft beer city. It's a beautiful place, the Danes are great, and it's somewhere that you really need to go if you get the chance. I'm very lucky to live in the south of Sweden, quite close to it, I have to say. But that's all you really need to know about Mikkeller for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is really quite nice. I really like how all of that comes together. It is a little bit kind of psychedelic. I mean, the artwork on this is almost like an epileptic's worst nightmare. That's probably a very bad joke to make actually, but yeah. So as you can see, plain silver bottle cap in this one. And it says this beer was brewed to be not like, if I'm not understanding it, and this beer was not brewed to be for Easter. Not actually quite sure what that means. I'll put it on there. So those of you that are in Danish speakers, I'll see if I can translate that, and I'll put what this actually says in the description below. Some of the words in there in Danish are a little bit different, but yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Like I told you at the start of the video, this one is 9.39% funky Belgian ale, and we'll get it out. You can see a little bit of smoke on the opening there, and we'll get it into the glass. This looks as if it will be interesting. So yeah, I do wonder if this has got Brettanomyces or lactobacillus or something. It's Brettanomyces that it says it has in here, so be curious, see how it gets on. These beers, of course, can change colour over their lifetime. You can see there's a few dots of sediment in this one at the bottom, but if I hold this beer up to the light, it's actually it's a very dark reddish amber quality there. There's a quarter or a third finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head on this one. It looks pretty nice. It actually smells a little bit vinous and winey if you sugar the beer around. But yeah, in terms of its colour, I think it's fair to say a really nice dark reddy amber colour there. It's actually, there's a little bit of haze kind of surrounding the top of it, so maybe there was a good little bit of sediment in this. You can see the chunks of sediment down at the bottom. It's all natural, of course, we don't have to care too much about that, but one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. If I put my fingers either side of the glass, I would say this one is a little bit hazy, but I do suspect that is down to the sedimentation. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and see how I get on. Nothing overly surprising about this one in terms of its appearance. The Brettanomyces beers, like I say, can change colour a little bit. I imagine this one might have been a little bit lighter in colour when it was first brewed, but let's see how we get on with the aroma. Oh yeah, that smells really nice actually. So yeah, definitely a lot of Brettanomyces in there. Straight away you're going to notice that kind of sharp vinous tart quality that you'd expect. It's got a lot of that white grapey sourness to it. Definitely some nice woody, oaky wood qualities in there. Some vanilla notes coming out of it also. Yeah, it's almost got a little bit of a leathery, musky kind of thing coming out of it too. It smells really nice. It almost smells, I almost want to say it's like a little bit smoky or charred or something. That's really unusual. It's a beautiful smelling beer, that. I wish on YouTube you could do the smell thing and actually get it to record the aromas. That would be cool. Impossible right enough, I think, but cool. That's a beautiful smelling beer. Very woody, very leathery. The more and more that I smell of it actually, the more that starts to dominate the aroma. So very woody, very leathery, and it's beautiful. That's one of the most interesting aromas I think I've come across in all these years doing the channel. That's beautiful. But yeah, definitely some nice winey qualities in there. Sort of white grapey, but then again, the more that I smell of it, it actually does come across as being you know, it actually does come across as being quite vinous. You know, it comes across as being a little bit more kind of like a red winey quality. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's lovely. It doesn't say what kind of barrels if it's been aged in barrels. I suspect it would have been a bit barrel aged, but it comes across absolutely beautifully. Like I say, woody, vanilla, very leathery, musky, and a lovely, you know, white, green, grapey quality in there. It's beautiful, that. A little bit of grassiness as well. Most of the hop qualities, of course, with this beer will have kind of dropped away just with the aging. A little bit of a biscuity, brown, sugary sort of thing. But yeah, really, it's very, very woody, this beer. Very woody, a little bit of a sharp lemony note as well, nice vinous qualities, and a little touch of a vanilla oaky quality. So yeah, take a bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. I very much doubt, to be honest, that many of you will actually be able to try this one at this point in time. But just take my word for it, this one smells absolutely beautiful. You can see that the haze is kind of spread throughout this a little bit more, and I've noticed that the chunks of sediment it's actually broken up a little bit just to be a kind of very thin, fine powder, to be honest. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Funky Star from Mikkeller, the famous Danish gypsy brewery of Copenhagen. One of my old beers that I had sitting aside for a special occasion. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Ooh, that's pretty nice, actually. How to describe this one? It's very, you know, it comes across as very woody and very kind of candied and boozy. I've never had a beer quite like this, actually. And I actually just noticed, and I was trying to figure out there if there's a meniscus on the glass. It almost looked as if there was a little bit kind of just sitting on top of that there. It almost looked as if it had two layers almost, but I think it's just the way the meniscus of the liquid is actually appearing on the glass. I've never noticed that with a beer before, but it looks, you know, that's, yeah, I'm just being stupid, I think. But yeah, that's a really lovely, lovely beer, this one. And I mean, I don't think I've ever aged a Brettanomyces beer as long as that. And in fairness, this one, it really reminds me actually of some of the beers that I've had from Amar Bryghus recently, where they were recommending, it was the Gangster series, the one that was named after all the gangsters, and they said you could age those for a good number of years. So for me, the way that this whole thing kind of comes across is really, it's lovely. It really shows me what Brettanomyces can do after 5 or 6 years in the bottle. It just kind of sweetens out a little bit. Of course, I'm very familiar with Bryggeriet in Skåne because they're very local to me, and I have the very fresh Brettanomyces beers. But it's really interesting just how it can kind of mellow out like this. So yeah, it's almost quite farmhousey, this beer too. So yeah, I think I've got my head around this beer a little bit, so let's try and break the flavour down then. So, across the middle of your palate, you can feel that lovely, smooth, woody quality there. That nice, almost oaky note just blankets the middle of your tongue. But you can feel with it, it's almost a little bit, it definitely has a little bit of a kind of bready quality just infused into it. If you come further forward on the tongue, it does have a slightly sweeter, pardon me, vanilla quality to it. So the vanilla notes are just coming out further forward on the tongue. The further you go into the aftertaste, it does dry out as well. But really, it's got this very smooth, how do you even describe that? It's just this really thick, bready quality. I mean, it makes me think of bagels a little bit, to be honest. You know, those sort of half-baked bread things. It really actually reminds me of that, like a half-baked bread dough. It really has that kind of quality to it, to be honest. That's probably a good descriptor of this one. It's got that bagel, the bready flavours in this beer really are very kind of bagel-like, just a plain bagel. So yeah, you've got that woody base, the vanilla flavours coming out a little bit on the front. You've got the kind of bagely doughy bread thing sitting on top of that. In the very centre of your palate, there is a sort of brown, sugary element in there. I don't think it's quite oily enough to be a caramel. It's almost like one of these kind of boozy sweetnesses that you can get. It's almost a little bit like a kind of Werther's Original butterscotchy kind of thing. It's almost a little bit like that. And that's a really nice kind of thing. I don't know if they would have added a little bit of caramel or something like that to this beer, or maybe even when it's a Belgian beer, you know, maybe they've done what they do with the tripels and put a little bit of a kind of candied sugar in it. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that they've put, or wait, actually candies. Yeah, no, it has got a little bit of that candied sugar note in it. I was wondering that, but yeah, they have. It definitely has. You can pick up that little bit of candied sugar that's in there in the middle of the palate too. It's really interesting how this goes together. I mean, as I say, I've never experimented with aging a Brettanomyces beer like this, so this is a really nice kind of education, if you like, and I'd be curious to try a few more and see if it really kind of makes the beer. This beer, it really has a sort of medicinal, cough syrupy kind of vibe about it. I don't know if you get it in Scandinavia, but it really reminds me in some ways of the orange Calpol that my mum used to give me when I had a cough when I was, you know, sort of 5, 6 and things like that. Yeah, no, it really reminds me of that, to be honest. It definitely has a little bit of that vibe to it, the candy sugar notes. In the beginning, that was quite funny. I just came to my head and then I checked the bottle. Yeah, I was right. But yeah, in the middle of your palate, you are really going to notice a little bit of this almost Werther's Original butterscotchy kind of flavour out of this beer. Whether that's there when it's young, I actually don't know. And I don't know if they have done a rerun of this beer. They seem to be bringing out a lot of their older recipes and things like that. When I had a quick look on Untappd, there were beers there that had a slightly different artwork. It was a black artwork that it had on it, so they've obviously either people have kept to this one longer than me, or they did a rerun of it with a different artwork at some point. But the way the malt and the yeasty qualities are going together in this one is really, really quite nice actually. I like how everything is going together in this beer. It definitely has a very kind of barrel aged sort of cough syrupy type vibe to it. I really, really like this one. So pardon me, big thumbs up to Mikkeller for this beer. On the hoppy side of things, you know, there's not really any kind of hoppy qualities to it. There's maybe a tiny little bit of earthiness there on the back corners of the palate as you come further forward. That kind of just sits there. Around the very front curve of the tongue you might get a little hint of a kind of grassy quality there, but when this beer has been sitting in the bottle for about 5 years, you're going to get very little of it. The hops tend to drop out gradually and they give you this almost like caramelised, oniony type flavour. I think that was one of the brewers, I think that might have been Luke Nicholas from Epic Brewing in New Zealand, who told me that was what he felt they tasted like, and it does actually, it really does. You do have that almost kind of caramelised, oniony flavour to this beer, but not strong oniony, if that makes sense, but you can definitely get a little bit of that around the edge of the tongue. But yeah, it's really nice that. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get those kind of fruity esters that come out of the hops. And for me, I mean, this one, it has a little bit of a sort of appley peary quality to it on the front of the palate. But it's almost like a kind of dried sultana, like dried apricot kind of flavour you're getting out of this one. The fruity notes in this beer are very medicinal, almost slightly fruitcakey. So it's really interesting that. It's very, as I say, sultanas, a little bit cakey, some apricots, maybe a bit of pear and apple and stuff like that. That's the kind of fruity flavours you're getting out of this beer. But I mean, it's been awesome to try this one, really quite unusual in that sense. It's been an education for me how everything in this goes together. It's a very, very smooth beer overall. It's not, I think the Brettanomyces has mellowed out a little bit. This really isn't a sour beer. I can see where they get the kind of funky quality from on this one because of that, the way the breadiness and the Brettanomyces give you that almost medicinal cough syrupy quality. But it's really, really nice actually. It's got that big breadiness and yeasty quality that you would expect of a Belgian beer, but the way the wood and some of the fruity notes come out definitely give it that slightly funky edge. So yeah, a really interesting one to try. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say yeah, full-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth on this one. The mouthfeel really is quite oily. The middle of your palate is very, very smooth. Definitely a little bit sweet too. Virtually no hoppy qualities to this one. I mean, what would you get? I don't know, would you get like 5 IBUs, 10 IBUs out of this one at most? And it's got a lovely, juicy, oily, fruity quality to it as well. So yeah, let's just leave it at that for this. A beer that's been a bit of an education for me to try. I feel that this maybe isn't one of my better reviews that I've done, just because it is an education for me as well. But I really like how this beer's turned out, and it's cool to try a Brettanomyces beer for the first time that's been aged for a good couple of years. I mean, like I say, this one, technically it's 6 months out of date, but to be quite honest, I don't think that 6 months would have made all that much difference to the flavours that you're picking up in this beer. Lovely to try this one, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. So yeah, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below if you've tried it before. Let me know if you actually have one of these. If you do, taste it for yourself and let me know how it's turned out for you. But yeah, really cool to review this one. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Let me know your favourite beers from Mikkeller and all that kind of thing in the comment section below. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will catch you very soon with more Mikkeller beers. This one was the Funky Star, coming in at 9.39%. Basically they're describing it as a strong Belgian funky farmhouse ale type thing, but it's really nice, and if you do have one of these that you've aged, you are in for a bit of a treat. So yeah, let me know about the reruns of this one as well, if you did happen to have a rerun or anything like that. It's difficult to keep up to date with everything that Mikkeller are doing, but thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Funky Star, a version I think from 2013-2014 from Mikkeller in Copenhagen in Denmark. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.